begin with the learning. So tonight we focus on the Torah portion of this week, which is Beshalach. Now, when you think about Beshalach, the one thing that comes to mind is, what is it? What's the main theme this week? What's the big miracle that happens? Post-Exodus, before Sinai, after 7 days, that's it. Splitting of the sea. So what happens? Vahi Beshalach Paro et ha'am, when after Pharaoh sent the people out, he wakes up the next morning and he says, hey, why are all the cranes in the air and not, how come there's no building? What's going on? It's like Atlanta 2008, maybe, whenever that happened, right? I remember I used to look out at the skyline, Midtown, downtown, crane, Buckhead, whatever, cranes everywhere. And then one day, they all stopped. And Pharaoh's like, what's going on? And they tell him, you don't remember? Remind me. I'm embellishing a little bit, not exactly how the dialogue went. It said, you sent out all your slaves, all the Jewish people. He says, what? I did that? Yes, you did that. You know what? Get them back. Let's go after them and bring them back. And so, indeed, they chase after the Jewish people. And finally, the Egyptians catch up to them 1 week after the Exodus. So, what happens is that the Jews are stuck in the proverbial, between a rock and a hard place? But in this case, it's not between a rock and a hard place, it's between a sea and a pursuing Egyptian army. The Jews cry out to God, and as the Medrash says very beautifully, 4 factions broke out amongst the people. One group said, let's surrender and return to Egypt. Another group said, let us give up hope, and we can't go back to Egypt, but let's give up our lives and just throw ourselves into the sea. Another group said, let's fight with the Egyptians, let's wage war with them. And another group said, let's pray to God. And God heard all these groups and told Moshe to tell the people, none of the above. A, B, C, D, E is none of the above. Rather, what should they do? Vayisa'u, keep on moving. I told you, says God, to head to Sinai, next stop Sinai. Don't worry about anything else. Don't worry about what's behind you. Don't worry about what's in front of you. Keep on moving. And indeed, what happens? Nachshon ben Aminadav, Nachshon from the tribe of Judah, he walks into the sea, and he walks in defiantly. And as the water gets higher and higher and higher, it gets up to his nose, and he can't breathe, and the sea splits. And the miracle happens, and the Jews go through the sea and emerge on dry land. And by the way, I always love sharing this because unless you've heard this before, this is very surprising. The Jews didn't actually cross the sea. They went in and out on the same side of the sea, meaning on the same land side of the sea. They kind of made like a shoehorn. Shoehorn, is that what it's called?
U-turn.
A U-turn, yeah. A jug handle. Loop in if you're driving in New Jersey. A horseshoe, exactly. They did a little bit of a loop and came back out on the same side. But that loop was sufficient enough to do what it was intended to do. And what was it intended to do? Draw the Egyptians in and collapse the sea upon them, thus getting rid of the threat for all eternity. And of course, when you think about this from a psychological place, I mean, isn't this a psychological truth that if you try to run away from your problems, you might turn around and find them following you? If you don't deal with it, you know what's going to happen? You might try to run away, but the moment you turn around, it's like, oh, you again. And it says, oh, you again. And it's mutually you against. Unless you deal with it, it's not going to be dealt with. And so the 7 days later, we have this idea, this concept. Again, how do we see it in actuality? It's not like they dealt with it. God again did a miracle and the sea collapsed on them, but it represents the concept of finally putting, the challenges to rest by actually dealing with it. Again, how that maps onto the real story, we got to figure that out a little bit. But the point is, that's the theme. And what happens right after the splitting of the sea? The Torah tells us that immediately after, upon witnessing the miracle, not just of their own safety and security getting through the sea, which is itself, just an incredible miracle. But upon seeing the Egyptians, who to them represented everything scary in the world, to see them gone, they erupted in joyous song.
But
And this is
Hashem
called
is not
Shira.
happy. Hashem is not happy because it's his people too.
Yeah. True. Right. So there is a mixed sentiment. It's like why we spill the wine right at the Seder as we recount the plagues, because wine represents joy. And so even as we recount the plagues that saved the Jewish people, the fact that the plagues harmed God's creatures needs to take a little bit of joy wine out of us. We diminish the wine. We diminish the joy a little bit, and that symbolizes the idea of recognizing the pain and suffering. But nonetheless, the Jewish people sang Shirat Hayam, the song of the sea, which we commemorate every single day in the Shacharit, in the morning prayers. We say, Az Yasher Moshe Uvnei Yisrael Tashira Azot. Then Moses and the Jewish people sang this song, and we proceed to read the whole song. 19 different verses of song and praise and thanksgiving and jubilance over being saved. All right, now, what we're going to do today is address the question that maybe has come to mind or maybe hasn't. How exactly did they sing the song? And we'll find today that there's a three-way machloket, a three-way dispute in the Talmud as to how exactly they sang the song. Now you might be thinking, how can you argue about how you sing a song? You just sing a song. Well, leave it up to the rabbis to have a disagreement about how the song was sung, and that is the topic of tonight's discussion. We'll talk about three opinions. We'll then ask three questions. We'll then explore the concept of unity from a deeper perspective. We'll then talk about the role of Moses in all of this. And finally, we'll get to a deeper understanding of how these three opinions and how the song was sung represent three perspectives, three visions on the very concept of leadership, the very concept of parenting, the very concept of mentoring, the idea of what it means to be a leader, what it means to be a mentor, what it means to be a parent. There are three paradigms, three different dynamics, three different ways that this can come about or can play out, and that is at the core the subject of the debate. So all of that is a map of tonight's class. There's a powerful takeaway at the end, and I think everyone will be able to relate to it and really be inspired by it. Yeah, two Jews, three opinions, exactly. Although in this case, there are three rabbis and three opinions. All right, so let's begin. We're going to go through this slowly. Take a look at text number 1. Hold on, I'm going to pull this up in a second. Perfect. Yeah, we're going to start with text number 1. And David, I'll ask you to read, but just give me a moment. Let me first get this squared away on the technology side. Boom. And okay, David, please take it away.
Then Moses and the children of Israel sang this song to God, and they said, saying, I will sing to God, for he is most lofty.
Okay, thank you for reading that. Now, I just want to be very clear here. The beginning of the actual song is where those quotation marks are. Ashira la Hashem ki ga'o ga'a. I will sing to God, for he is most lofty. That is the opening stanza of the song. And by the way, you might have noticed this before. In a Torah scroll, if it's open to this section, it's written not as a standard column, but it's actually written in three, how do you describe it? It's almost like
waves,
like a poem. There's like a line and then a gap and then another line and then it goes in the middle. Boom, 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 boom. It's like kind of bricks, kind of stacked like that, sort of. The writing is different. I mean, every column is usually like just a block of text. This one is written kind of like a song. Okay, like a poem, like a song. All right, that's where the song begins. But I want to draw your attention. Actually, I want to ask you to ask me, what word in that verse sticks out as being weird or having no meaning to it? What word seems a little superfluous?
Said saying.
Good, said saying. And what's the saying? Let's read it without saying, okay? Then Moses and the children of Israel sang this song to God, and they said, I will sing to God, for he is most lofty. That makes sense, right? So why does it say, why does it say said saying? Okay, yeah, that's clear, right? Why the extra word saying? In the Hebrew, It's Vayomru Lemar. The word lamar is one of the most frequently used words in Torah. Vayedaber Hashem Moshe lamar. God spoke to Moses saying. Well, that's not only telling us what God said to Moses, but God telling Moses to repeat it to the Jewish people. So God said that you should say it. But what does this mean? Moses and the children of Israel sang this song to God, and they said, saying? That saying doesn't really, that lamar, that word saying, doesn't have any utility seemingly over here. So it seems like a very out of place word. They weren't repeating it to anyone. They were literally singing the song. There's no one else. Like, what does that word mean? It doesn't read well in the Hebrew. It doesn't read well in the English. Okay. This prompts, yeah.
Why would it even say said instead of that? And they sang.
I was thinking the same
Yeah,
thing.
good. It could have just said, then Moses and the children of Israel sang the song to God.
Right.
Could it mean because of the repetition that it was singing it in an extra loud voice or with more intention?
Could be. Oftentimes the repetition, yeah, that's very good. Oftentimes a repetitive word indicates like, surely it's done, or it's like, a stronger measure of it.
But then it would have said, and they sang, instead of and they said.
Right. Vayomru lemar. Yeah, good
Instead
question.
Of
Why? Say shira, shara,
right.
whatever the word is. Okay, good, fine. So why saying versus saying? Okay, good. We have a few questions. So this prompts the sages to point out the following. And that is that the word lemar, which again here is translated as saying, actually means that there was a very unique way in which the song was sung. As we'll see, this leads into a three-way dispute in the Talmud as to how exactly the song was sung. But we derive like kind of the opening for that is this word saying, lemar, which kind of evokes the idea that it's not just sung, but it's said, and it's said saying, meaning there's some sort of, the Torah is trying to draw us into the narrative and say something unusual happened here. Now, to understand the three different opinions, we need to take a look at text 2a from the Talmud. But before we get into that, let me share the following piece of information. Today, we are very spoiled. I don't mean spoiled in a bad way, but I mean we're very lucky, very fortunate. We have a lot of things, comforts and just things that back in the day people did not have. One of them would be, as I mentioned before we started, I mentioned here amongst us that heating, right? The fact that we have heat and that we're comfortable is certainly a blessing that we shouldn't take for granted, assuming we have it. Another thing that we have religiously, spiritually, Jewishly, that we should not take for granted is Sidurim, prayer books. Because back in the day, they did not have prayer books. In fact, for much of Jewish history, there were no printed prayer books, right? Even if there was a liturgy, I mean, how many copies before the printing press? Remember, the printing press is what, from the 1400s, maybe the 1500s, somewhere around there. So we're talking about 500 years.
On the walls.
Yeah, right. That's a big wall. No, right. Yeah, you have some core prayers might have some core prayers, but like for the most part, either you knew it or you didn't, or you had a handwritten copy or you just didn't. And a lot of people might show up to shul, to synagogue, and just not know what to say. And so therefore the Talmud discusses, so what do you do if it's time to recite the Hallel? The Hallel prayer, it's recited on Rosh Chodesh and the holidays. It's time to recite the Hallel. But the congregation, because it's not sung, because it's not recited every day, it's a special prayer, so people might not know. So then what do you do? So the Talmud addresses it. Merle, if you don't mind, please read text 2a from the Talmud tractate Sukkah.
If a child leads the Hallel prayer, repeat every word after him. If an adult leads, reply to each stanza with Hallelujah.
Okay, so says the Talmud the following. Thank you for reading that, and let me explain. The Talmud says, if a child leads the Hallel prayer. Now, you might be wondering, how could a child lead the service? The answer is because it's Hallel, so it's singing whatever. Theoretically, we don't do it today, but theoretically, if a child leads the Hallel prayer, and the assumption here that's unspoken is that some people in the congregation do not know the Hallel by heart, and the other assumption is they don't have a prayer book. So now you have a child up there, and then the rest of the congregation needs to recite Hallel. So the Talmud says, you know what you do? Let him lead word by word, line by line. You know why? Because that way the congregation that doesn't know by heart, so the child would have the prayer book, one copy, so he would recite it, and everyone should repeat after him. But if an adult leads, what's the difference? A child is not obligated in the mitzvah of prayer, not in any mitzvah, including the mitzvah of prayer. Now, a child could pray, and it's a mitzvah to pray, but he's not obligated to pray. So since that's the case, we have a rule. If only one who's obligated in a mitzvah can help someone else fulfill the mitzvah. But if you're not obligated to the mitzvah, then you can't, it's called bimotzi, you can't do it on someone else's behalf. Like, okay, a classic example of this is Kiddush, Friday night. Not everyone makes Kiddush. Some people have a custom that everyone should, but not everyone does. One person might lead it. So what happens? How come you didn't do Kiddush? The answer is they did it for you. How could they do it for you? If they're obligated and you're obligated, they can fulfill your obligation. That's the way it is. Or like blowing the shofar. You don't have to blow the shofar. One guy blows the shofar. You say amen. You're good to go. What happened to your mitzvah? Your mitzvah is discharged by that guy doing it for you. That's the way that it works. Okay. So in the similar case, if there's an adult leading, that only works if it's an adult. If it's a child, the child's not obligated, therefore can't discharge the obligation. You know what the problem therefore is? You can't just say amen to the kid's hallel. Doesn't work. You have to say the whole house. So the kid has to be the one to prompt word by word, line by line. That's what the Talmud says. But then the Talmud says, the next line, again, a long explanation of a 2-line Talmud. If an adult leads the Hallel, then you can reply to each stanza with Hallelujah, meaning you don't have to say the whole Hallel. The kid says Hallelujah, Hallu Avdei Hashem, whatever the Hallel says, and you say Hallelujah. And then the child continues, say Hallelujah, meaning you're part of it, but you're not really part of it. You're letting him do it, and you're just saying, I agree, essentially. It's like an amen type of verse.
Not the child, the adult.
Correct. Right. If the adult, correct, not if the child. If the adult leads it, then he does it essentially for you, and all you have to say is basically amen. In this case, it's hallelujah because there's no blessing. So you say yes. But if it's a child, they can't do it for you. You have to do it yourself. So he leads it, and then you reply. All of this is to help us understand text 2b, another Talmudic passage that presents the three-way dispute about how the song at the sea was sung. Merle, if you're up for this one as well, please read 2b.
Rabbi taught that when the Jews climbed from the sea, they were inspired to sing an ode to God. How did they sing? As an adult who leads the Hallel prayer and the congregation repeats the first word of each chapter, Moses said, I will sing to God. And they replied, I will sing to God. Moses said, for he is very lofty. And they replied, I will sing to God.
So just to be clear here, they didn't repeat the words of Moses. They just said, Ashir Lashem. He said, Ashir Lashem, Ashir Lashem. Ki ga'oga'a, Ashir Lashem. Right? Whatever he said, they said, I will sing to God. They didn't say the whole song at the sea. They just said, I will sing to God. Okay, that's one opinion. Continue next page, please. So that's opinion number one. We have two more opinions that the Talmud will say right now.
Rabbi Eliezer, son of Rabbi Yossi the Galilean, said, as a minor who leads the Hallel prayer and the congregation repeats word for word, Moses said, I will sing to God. And they replied, I will sing to God. Moses said, for he is very lofty. And they repeated, for he is very lofty. Rabbi Nehemiah said, as a cantor who leads the Shema prayer in the synagogue, the cantor chants the opening words, and the congregation joins him in prayer.
Okay, there we go. So here we have... No, 8 p.m. is going to be in the social hall. Yeah.
The good news is they're expecting looks like they've seated for 200. The bad news is right now it's just the two of us.
Don't worry, more people will be there.
Jewish talk.
You got some more of us joining soon. All right. So here are the three opinions. Let me summarize them for clarity. We have to have this clear because if not, we're going to run into trouble. So to be very clear. As I mentioned before, the Song of the Sea comprises 19 different stanzas. 19 stanzas. According to the first opinion, who is Rabbi Akiva, the people did not sing the entire song. Moses sang the entire song. The people just said, Moses, we love you. They didn't actually say that. They said, Ashir LaHashem, Ashir LaHashem. They had two words that they kept on saying, right? I will sing to God, I will sing to God, I will sing to God. That was their chorus, and that's all they said. And Moses did Moses did all 19 stanzas, and all they said after each one was, Ashir LaHashem. Make sense? That's one opinion.
Do you know the rest of the stanzas?
We say it every day in davening. It's written in the Torah.
All 19?
All 19. Ashir Hashem, this is my God, and I will glorify him, the God of my fathers, and I will exalt him. All that's all part of the song. 19 different stanzas.
Okay.
But the people, they didn't say the whole song. Because how were they to know it? Moses composed it. He got the copyrights, and he sang it, and people said, you go, Moses. Again, not exactly. They said, Ashir Hashem. That's one opinion. Rabbi Akiva, the great Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Eliezer says, no. Everyone sang the whole song, but they did it line by line. Moses said, Ashir Hashem, and the people repeated, Ashir Hashem. Moses said, Ki Ga'oga, and they said, Ki Ga'oga. They repeated line after line, stanza after stanza because of course they did. How else would they know the song? So of course they repeated it line for line. Yeah.
Only your mom and Joy and I remember Mitch Miller, Follow the Bouncing Ball.
I remember the bouncing ball. And some.
Follow the words.
Yeah. Now, that's the first two opinions. Comes along Rabbi Nehemiah. He's the third opinion. And he says something radical. You ever watch a movie and in the middle of the movie it turns into a musical and suddenly everybody joins in song and everyone knows the lyrics magically and the choreography, and it's like, but how did strangers know this? How did that set up? That's Rabbi Nehemiah's opinion. Moses said, Ashir LaHashem ki ga'oga, and spontaneously, like magic, everyone sang along. No prayer books, no lyric charts, no musical notes. Everyone spontaneously knew the song. That's the third opinion. Again, I'm going to go through it very quickly. Opinion number one, Moses is the only one who sang. The people just said, Ashir LaHashem. Second opinion, the people also sang the song, but they repeated line after line. Third opinion, Moses started, but once he started, everyone joined in unison. They didn't have to repeat it. They all sang it together. Make sense? I have three questions. Question number one, are you kidding me? Even about this we're going to argue? I know 2 Jews, 3 opinions, and 3 Jews, 3 opinions. Fine. But even this we're going to argue about? How did they sing the song? Are you kidding me? And who actually cares? Did they sing it? Did they actually sing it? Did they not sing it? Word for word, line for line? Did they spontaneously know it? Who cares? It's not like they're arguing over a point of halacha Jewish law, where when is Rosh Chodesh? I feel like that's a relevant question. That was last week's topic, right? When is the first? That's a relevant topic if you have a debate about that. But a debate about how they sang the song at the sea, who cares? They did it. They did it. Okay, first question. Question number one is, who cares? Question number two. Question number two is, according to Rabbi Nehemiah's opinion number 3, how'd they know the lyrics? According to 1, they didn't know the lyrics, so they just said Ashir Hashem. According to 2, they knew the lyrics because they repeated it after Moses, line by line. But according to 3, Moses started and they spontaneously erupted in song with Moses. How did they know the lyrics? How'd they know it?
Wasn't there a big trend not too long ago, like in malls and
Flash mobs.
Flash mobs.
Yeah.
There you go.
But that was pre-planned. Those flash mobs were This is the original flash mob.
I mean, this is the original flash mob, and the first one is the beginning of rap.
By the way, yes, that is true. By the way, I don't know if you know this. We have the original music that they sing the song to. It goes like this: bam, bam, ba-da-dum, bam, bam, ba-da-dum, bam, bam, ba-da-dum. Ashira Lashem. Bam, ba-da. Okay, all right, done. Next. So that is, thank you, Broadway debut next week. So second question is, how do they know the lyrics? You'll say it's a miracle? Fine, but how do they know? Question 3 is, if they knew the lyrics miraculously, then why did Moses have to start it? Huh? Why couldn't they all have just simultaneously begun it? According to Rabbi Nehemiah, he has it both ways. According to the first two, if you look back at text 1. This is going to be a little bit of a nuance here, but it's important. Look back at text 1. You know what it says? It says, then Moses and the children of Israel sang the song. Who's first? Moses. So that's why all 3 opinions agree that Moses started. But according to the third opinion, that everyone had, I guess, miraculous divine inspiration and knew how to sing the song, well, then why wouldn't it be that they all sang it together? Why is it first Moses and then the children of Israel? And if you look at the words of Rabbi Nehemiah, the third opinion, he says very clearly, as a cantor who leads the Shema prayer in the synagogue. And that, by the way, why Shema? Because everyone is assumed to know the Shema by heart. The cantor chants the opening words, and then everyone joins in. But he's the one that starts it. The question is, by Moses and the Song of the Sea, why did it need that? Why couldn't he have just gone ahead and why couldn't everybody have just spontaneously started together if it was a miracle anyway? So those are the 3 questions. To summarize, hold on one second. Let me just summarize the 3 questions. Question number 1 is, who cares how they sang it? Question number 2, meaning obviously the inference of that is it's important that we know this and that we have different opinions, but why? Question number 2 is, according to the third opinion, how did they indeed know the song spontaneously without Moses leading them, and then the second part of that question is, which is question number 3, is, well, if they did know it spontaneously, then why did Moses have to start it? Why couldn't they all have started spontaneously at the very same time? Social, yeah. Okay, Steve, question?
It's consequential that it says, and the children of Israel, not with the children of Israel.
Yeah, that implies first and second. Correct. Good point. And also the question is asked, wasn't Moses part of the children of Israel? So if they all sang together, it could have just said, then the children of Israel sang, and we would have assumed that Moses was part of them. But the fact that it says Moses and the children of Israel implies that Moses somehow led them, which is fine for opinion 1 and 2, because he's the one who essentially composed it, and they just followed him. But according to opinion number 3 of Nehemiah, that it wasn't Moses the composer, but it was everyone was filled with the same divine inspiration for composition, perhaps. Well, then why do you need Moses to be the leader? There is no leader if everyone's saying it together. And so why is it Moses and the children of Israel? It could have easily just have said, then the children of Israel sang, and we would have assumed that Moses was part of the Jewish people. Okay.
But it's no different than today.
But one could say
that
Chazan
always
leads
something, and then everyone joins.
Okay, but good. But that's supposing that you have a cantor. You're right. Every shul does it the same way. The cantor, the chazan, the shliach tzibur opens the paragraph, and everyone joins along. But the question is, why was that way? It wasn't a prayer service, and if it was miraculously spontaneous, why wasn't it just like? You're right, and that's what Rabbi Nehemiah likes.
They waited for him to set the niggin.
Right. Set the pace, set the key. We'll be in. I don't know the keys. All right. So these are the 3 questions. Now, in order to understand this, we're going to break down the concept of unity, because at the core of this, it touches on the concept of unity and Jewish unity. Certainly we're talking about people joining together in song and how that works and how that looks. And so I think it's important to speak about the concept of unity, achdut, and recognize a few different flavors of dynamics of this construct. Okay, so what we're going to do now is take a look at the Or HaChaim, 3a. This is Rabbi Chaim Ibn Attar. He lived in the 1600s and into the 1700s. mainly in the 1700s, as you can see in his bio, and he was a mystic. He was a mystic who wrote a commentary on Torah that is very, very well studied, but his commentary always blends Kabbalah, little spirituality and mysticism into the conversation. So Toba, I'd like you to please read text 3a, and he now connects our topic and our theme with the concept of unity. Take it away, please.
And they said, saying, I will sing. This means one said to the other, let's sing an ode together, without difference or separation, to the point of oneness, though we are many. They concentrated together and accomplished their goal. They said, I will sing, in the singular tense, as if they were one person. Otherwise, they would have said, we will sing.
Let's take a look. Let's take a look at this for a second. Look at the English translation. It works fine in the English or in the Hebrew. There's a word vayomru, and they said. Is they singular or plural?
It's plural.
They is plural, right? So it's plural. And what did they say? I will sing. You see the problem? They should have said, we will sing. Or I said, I will sing. They said, I will sing makes no sense. You're mixing tenses. Vayomru is plural and Ashira is plural. It should have said Vayomru Nashira with a nun. Nashira means Nashira, we will sing. Vayomru, and they said, quote, we will sing if it's plural. If it's singular, Vayomer.
But they didn't say, we will sing, inferring that they were all one.
Oh, so comes along, exactly. Comes along I'm just explaining the commentary, right? So that's what prompts the Ar HaChaim. He's known as the Ar HaChaim HaKadosh, the holy Ar HaChaim. This is what prompts Rabbi Chaim Ibn Attar to say, you know what was going on? There was a profound sense of unity that even though they were many, they sang as one. Like the money says, e pluribus unum, from many into one. They were many. They said, I will sing. What's Ashira? I will sing. I, meaning even though we're many, it's one voice. You know what it's like? It's like at Sinai, at Mount Sinai, right? It was ki'ish echad belev echad, like one man with one heart. That's the famous teaching about, as they stood at Sinai, they were like one person. And so you have a similar concept here. This is weeks before that, standing at the splitting of the sea, or in the aftermath of the splitting of the sea and the collapse of the sea on the Egyptians. What happened was a profound sense of unity amongst the people to the point that they became I. Good. Well, how'd that happen? So we take a look, we continue, and we take a look at text 3b. Toba, please read this one as well.
When their hearts were filled with complete faith and awe of his loftiness, they sang the ode with the sacred spirit. So what's interesting, thank you for reading that, is that it seems like the unity is a result of a spiritual experience and a spiritual moment. Because when their hearts were filled with complete faith and awe of his loftiness, that's when they sang with the sacred spirit. And by the way, sacred spirit sounds way too fancy. In the Hebrew, it's Ruach HaKodesh. You know what that means, Ruach HaKodesh? Yeah, and that's prophecy. That's always a euphemism for prophecy.
It also sounds like they knew the song all at once.
Oh, that's the point. That's what Ruach HaKodesh means. That answers the question. How do they all know the lyrics? You know what the answer is? They all knew the lyrics because they were filled with the divine spirit. And the divine spirit is the one that moved through them to allow them to sing. But it all moved through them simultaneously like one. You with me on this? So they had this incredible channel. Usually Ruach HaKodesh, this divine spirit rests on one person, if they're lucky to be granted a spirit of like prophecy and the divine word, as it were. Here you have a nation a few million strong. That's why tonight's class is entitled One Song, A Million Voices. It should really be one song, one voice, times a million, right? But everyone sang together the same song, filled with the divine spirit. They were all as one, connected with the source. So all of that has happened. So then the question becomes, what is the reason and what is the source for this unity amongst the people? So we're going to go through this. We're going to go through a few texts that speak about the source of unity. Because if we take a half a step back and you put a bunch of people in one room, And I know we joked before, a few times, 2 Jews, 3 opinions, because it's true. It's a little lot. Jews are opinionated as well as other people as well. But the point is, people by definition have different perspectives, different thoughts, different ways of of perceiving things. And so, what does it mean that there's this unity? So there's a few different ways to look at it, and I'll share with you 2 basic forms. One way is to say like this: the Talmud. There's a Jerusalem Talmud that shares. Imagine if you are cutting cucumbers for a salad, and God forbid the knife slips, and you nick your finger on the other hand. What are the odds that and let's say you're cutting with your right hand, and you cut your left hand? What are the odds that your left hand is going to start punching the right hand? Do you see that happening? No, why not? Why not?
It's one body.
Because it's one body. So there's one meditation that says, look, you're getting upset at that guy. He's your left hand to your right hand. Or your, this ear to that ear. It's the same body. It's the same being. That's one meditation. Then you have another meditation. The other meditation is not that the bodies necessarily are one, but that all of our souls are one. Because a soul, every soul comes from God. And you want to look at it this way, you could say that we're all children of God. The souls all come from the same source, which makes us siblings, but even more than that, because what it means is that the core of who I am is a soul. And the core of my soul is a piece of God. And you have that same core inside of you. You know what that means? That my core and your core are not just siblings. You know what they are? Same. It's one. It's not just a right hand to a left hand. It's a right hand to a right hand. You with me? It's not even 2 parts of the same body. It's the same essence. Not because it's ultimately part of the same body. It's the core of who I am and the core of who you are literally the same stuff, the same substance. Okay, that's a deeper level. Let's take a look. I'm going to read text 4. Okay, let me open this up and let's read text 4, a text, the Radvaz, that jumps into this. He writes, all Jews are akin to one body. That's the first example that I gave. Though our bodies are separated, our souls are from one place. Thus we are like one body, for the soul is primary. So he actually kind of mixes both ideas together. First he says they're like one body, which makes it sound like right arm, left arm, or right hand, left hand. And then he says the souls are from one place. Souls are primary. Okay, either way, bottom line is you have this concept of unity. So what is it that brought the people together? So let's connect some dots here. So we asked the question before, how is it, according to the third opinion, that everyone spontaneously knew the song? And we answered, because they all connected with the source. And at the source, that's where the song came from. So they all had Ruach HaKodesh, the divine spirit that rested upon them to imbue them with the song. But they all sang the same song. They didn't just sing a song with random lyrics. They all sang the same song. Right? And it wasn't that we will sing, it's I will sing. They were all one, fused together in oneness. So what that means is that not only were they connected with the divine spirit that gave them the lyrics to the Song of the Sea, but they were so connected with each other that it was like one song, one voice, one being, one body, one person singing the same song. That's the idea. That explains Rabbi Nehemiah's opinion. That had they all sing it together, because they were all so connected to the singularity, to this core spiritual singularity of their soul, that they all, number one, connected to the singularity of their soul and God, and at the same place of singularity, it was singularity between them and someone else. So the same way they got the song is the same way they all sing it together. It's the same singularity. Does that make sense? When you go to the core of your soul, you're number one, connected with God, and number two, connected with the other. It's the same thing. That's why it says in the writings that if you love God, but you hate your neighbor, you don't love God. Because if you're really connected with God, then at that level, at that point, you and the other are the same. So how can you have any friction with the other guy? It must be that you're not connected with the core. If you're not connected with the core, you're not really connected with God. Make sense? You can't have one without the other. Which only magnifies the other question I asked earlier, which is then why did Moses have to play a role in this? If everybody at that point, because of the divine revelation, you know what it says? It says even the maidservant, meaning trying to evoke the fact that like everybody, even the maidservant at the splitting of the sea saw more divine revelation than the greatest of the prophets, than Ezekiel, than Isaiah, all the great prophets. Even a maidservant, this is my God. You know when you say this? When you say this versus that is over there. This is right here. This is my God. You know what that means? God was very immediate at the splitting of the sea. And so what it means is that the moment the experience of the splitting of the sea, God was so close to them. They got the lyrics and they got the unity. And the question is, why do you need Moses? That only magnifies the question. The last question I asked 3 questions. The second question we've answered. The third question is, if everybody knew the lyrics, then why did Moses have to start? And yeah, sure, in a synagogue, the cantor leads the service. But in this context, why do you need Moses? If everyone is so connected to God and to each other, what's going on? What's the role of Moses? So, here's the truth. The truth is that it's all due, the ability to connect on such a level is all due to Moses. You see, Moshe Rabbeinu, is called a neshama klalit, which means a collective soul. This is very important because Kabbalah speaks extensively about this. How Adam, the first human being, was a neshama klalit. His soul included all souls that would subsequently come later, meaning his soul was a collective soul. And likewise, it says that Moshe Rabbeinu, was a collective soul that included all of the souls of the people of his generation. Which means that the only way they could really be unified is by elevating to the core of their soul, which is the soul of Moses. It's almost like when you get to the core of the soul, you get to that core point of singularity. Who represents that singularity? Moses, which means to say that how did they reach that space? It's by their relationship with Moses. Take a look at the Shach al HaTorah, text number 5. I'll read this one as well. Text number 5. He writes like this: I will sing to God. The text should have read, we will sing to God, for Moses and the Jews sang. Again, same question. Why I, not we? So he answers, it means that everyone was elevated to the point of accessing their sacred spirit, like we just said. This enabled them to tune into what the others were saying and collectively tune into what Moses was saying. For they were all included in the soul of Moses. Their souls were part of his soul. From this perspective, it is no wonder that they could tune into his words, meaning according to Ravaz, what he explains is that it's not just that the people were directly tuned to channel G-O-D. That's not a thing. W-G-O-D. That's, right? It's not just that the people were tuned to God and got the lyrics directly from the source. They were really tuned to Moses, who's the source, the collective soul of all individual souls. And from there, that's how they interfaced to get the lyrics. And that's also how they connected to each other. It's through the collective soul of Moses. That's why he had to go first. That is why he went first to lead the song. As the Rabbi explains in text number 6, he says the following. By opening the chant, text 6, by opening the chant, Moses initiated and empowered the ensuing chant of the people. This made it possible for the people to sing in complete unison, activating their collective state as their souls exist within Moses, singing as one person with no difference or separation. This collective and unifying experience is really drawn from and powered by Moses himself. Great. We have a nice explanation about unity with God, unity with divine spirit, unity with each other, and that flowing through Moses, because that's what Moses symbolizes, and that's the song of the sea, and all of it makes sense. However, we still need to get back to our first. We've answered questions 2 and question 3, but we need to get back to question 1. Who cares how they sang it? What's the lesson for us? What were they really arguing about? And so, my friends, for the next few minutes here, I want to share with you a much deeper understanding of what the dispute is about. And I think the best way to do this is go straight to an analogy. And I've come up with this analogy, so it's not going to be perfect, but I think it's going to be helpful. So here you go. There are three forms of leadership. One form is where the leader essentially does all the work, and the people say, we love you. You're doing great. Kol hakavod, yasher koach, good on ya, mate, or whatever language you want to say. Yiddish, Hebrew, Australian, whatever your favorite language is, right? Yasher koach is Yiddish, kol hakavod is Hebrew, good on ya, mate is Australian. Whatever your flavor is, you're telling the one you're doing a great job. Now, this would be okay. Let's give them a go, and then I want to expound even more. Second dimension is no. You're going to do the work. You're going to have input. You're going to have to pull your own weight. But you're following the lead of the leader. Meaning you don't really know what to do or what to say. You're following line by line. You're following, okay, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. Okay. The third dimension is where you've been initiated. It starts off, but then you have the ability, you have the education, you have the empowerment to run with it accurately and get it right. Let's talk about raising children. One way, and I don't know if it's a way or maybe a stage. Let's talk about stages of maturation of children. So one stage is where you're making all the decisions. Right? You're not leaving it up to your 2-year-old, like what time is bed or whatever it is. All you want them to say is, okay. That's all you want. I don't want your input. You don't have to sing along with me. I just want, just give a thumbs up and we're good. I'm taking the lead. And on one level, okay, let's leave it like that. Another level, another dimension, another age or stage of maturation and maturity is where the child now is able to recognize the value and understand a little bit more and repeat and follow. And it's not just blind surrender, but it's kind of an awareness of, oh yeah, this makes sense. But the child's not using their own mind. The child is just literally mimicking or copying the parent. The parent sets forth the value. The child is doing it and saying, yeah, I agree with that, but, not necessarily using their own mind. The third way is where the third level is where the child now grows up even more and is now away from home, let's say, and the parent started the path off by, teaching and inspiring, but at this point, the child has flown the nest, but is singing the same song. The very same lyrics. Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Eliezer, and Rabbi Nehemiah. Rabbi Akiva says, you know what the greatest unity with Moses is, with a leader is? The first opinion. You know what the greatest unity is? Where you dissolve and disappear, and you say to the leader, you take the lead. I'm not getting in the way. You don't even have to hear my voice. All I'm going to say is, Ashir Lashem. That's how unified. How close were Moses and the Jewish people? Says Rabbi Akiva. You know how close? The people didn't even get in the way at all. Moses sang the song and the people just said, you go, Moses. Ashir Lashem. That's how tight they were. Rabbi Eliezer says, you think that's tight? What kind of tight is that? That's like a relationship where, one spouse says to the other, you can have an opinion. You have no opinion. Just say yes. Like, what kind of unity is that? That means that you got rid of yourself. That means that you surrendered. That's not true unity, right? That's erasure of self. So Rabbi,
When I want your opinion, I'll tell you what it is.
Yeah, when I want your opinion, I'll tell you what it is. No, all you're saying is, yes, I agree. Yes, I agree. So Rabbi Eliezer says, no. They had their own voice. But Moses told them what to say. So they had a little bit more input, meaning they didn't just say, we believe in you, Ashir Lashem. They, line by line, they repeated everything. So they also said the same words, but totally in sync with Moses. Says Rabbi Eliezer, the second opinion, that's the greatest measure of unity. Comes along Rabbi Nehemiah and says, are you kidding me? That's the greatest level of unity? You're both wrong. It's not called unity. when you erase your voice. Nor is it called unity when your voice, your so-called voice, is only repeating what you just heard. That's also not real unity, because where are you? I mean, it's unity without the you. It's just niti. All right. Stick to my day job. Right? So he says that's not the greatest love. You know what the greatest love of unity is? Where you're speaking with your own voice. And you can't even hear Moses' voice. And yet, you're so connected that you're singing the same song. That's the greatest level of unity. And think about parenting, where you're not telling your kid what to do because they're older or whatever it is, but they know what they should be doing, and it's aligned with with what you would have wanted for them. Oh, that's the greatest nachas. That's the greatest joy. Rabbi Akiva's notion, the first opinion, Rabbi Akiva's notion of unity is where you put yourself to the side and say, whatever you say, you're the boss. It's unity. You're surrendering to Moses, because remember, we're talking about surrendering to be one with Moses, who's the collective soul. That's how you're one with everybody. So you're surrendering, but where are you? The second level. You're also surrendering, at least you're saying everything, but you're still surrendering again. Where are you? The third opinion is the deepest. You're fully there. You don't even hear their voice, but you're so connected, you're saying the same words. That means you really integrated the message. I feel like connecting it with today. So today, as I mentioned at the beginning of the class, tonight is the 10th day of Shvat. We just started, just that nightfall. And I think when you think about the Lubavitcher Rebbe, I go back to what I once heard Jonathan Sachs say. Rabbi, the former chief rabbi of the UK. Huh? The current rabbi of Beth Tfilah, Rabbi Nu. But we're talking about the former chief rabbi of the UK, Rabbi Jonathan Sachs. So he once spoke at the Chabad Rabbis Conference. You know, they do it annually in New York. I had the opportunity to be there, and it was a crowd of like 5,000 people, but I was in the room. He told stories about his meetings with the Rebbe and how the Rebbe was so inspiring. But he said a line that's very, very oft repeated. Rabbi Sachs had a way with words like no one else. But he said this. He said, most leaders create followers, but the Rebbe created leaders. Like, that's the mark of a real leader. See, most leaders create followers, but it's very rare to find a leader who empowers other leaders. Isn't that Rabbi Nehemiah? The first two opinions say Moses, he was really good at getting people to follow him. Yeah? When he said, Ashir LaHashem, they're like, Ashir LaHashem. Ki gaiga, Ashir LaHashem. Like, whatever you say, Moses, you're the boss. And Rabbi Eliezer, also, Ashir LaHashem, Ashir LaHashem. Ki gaiga, Ki gaiga. They repeated word for word, line by line. They didn't have their own opinion. They just, whatever you say, we'll repeat it. Are you creating leaders? I don't know. Creating followers. People who are good at repeating your information, repeating your words. The Rebbe saw it and was, I think, very successful. When you look around the world, you see, Chabad is a very decentralized apparatus. I don't know what the right word is. Chabad houses operating around the globe, thousands and thousands of center, each individually, sound like a franchise, owned and operated, right? Everyone individually kind of, it's under Chabad, whatever, but like everyone's running it their own, for their community, with their personality, in their own way, with their own unique fingerprint. Everyone. And you realize that the Rebbe didn't want people to just repeat his words, but to take the inspiration and to integrate it within themselves and to speak with their own voice, to be their own leader. The greatest nachas is not when your kid repeats what you said, but when your kid goes off and lives their life, an independent life, but does the things that you would want them to do. Not because of ego, not because your ego says, I want you to do that. because they're doing the right thing and they're leading the life that you set an example for. And that's the greatest joy. It doesn't always happen. And that's a reality of life also. But the idea here is that true empowerment means that you give the opportunity for the other to really use their own voice, not just to repeat what you said, but to really use their own voice. And when that's done consistent with the vision and the lyrics that you had in mind, that's true unity. That's when you know there's a real connection between leader and the people, that you've created more leaders and not just followers. They can hold their own and sing their song as well. I think when you think about, tonight is the yahrzeit of the previous Rabbi and the day that the Rabbi became Rabbi 1 year later. Think about our yahrzeit also. Yeah, what's the greatest nachas you can give to someone? I was speaking before about Joel Berkowitz, who passed away 4 years ago today on the English calendar. So what's the greatest nachas you can give someone who passes away? It's for them to look down and say, "You're living on in with a good spirit." You know what happens in the first two models? According to Rabbi Kiva, what if Moses would stop speaking? You know what would happen? The people wouldn't have anything to say. Nothing to say Ashir Hashem to him. Nothing to repeat. No stands to repeat. In the first two models of leadership, when the leader goes silent, the people go silent. In the third model, the leader goes silent intentionally so that the people can share their own voice, so that their own voice can emerge. This is so important in parenting, in education. If you're a teacher in a classroom, the ability to know when to stop teaching, when to stop pushing, to allow the voice of your students to come out. Ironically, from a guy who's been speaking for the last 60 minutes. I know, I get it. But I'm just saying, like a real pedagogy is knowing when to stop, to allow the voice of your student, of the child, of your mentee to emerge. That's a real leader. I think the Rebbe did a very good job. A lot of people, just going back to thinking about the Rebbe's legacy, it's not the Rebbe's yahrzeit, but just thinking about his legacy. You think about how many articles, I remember, I wasn't that old, but I wasn't also that young, 1994 when he passed away, who were saying, well, I guess Chabad, that's it. It's a nice run. Like Chabad is probably going to fold without a Rebbe, who's so central to the movement. And meanwhile, 94, 04, 14, 24, 32 years later, 31 and a half years later, whatever, almost 32 years later, Chabad is as vibrant as ever and has tripled in size since, the activities since the Rebbe passed away. And I think that's the true mark of a leader, where the inspiration doesn't slow down. It's not dependent on one person. It's not like you have to have the Moses sing the song or else there's no more song. The inspiration lives on. And we can run with it and get it right. And maybe not always get it right, but hopefully get it right. And I think that's the legacy. Rabbi Nehemiah got it right. Nehemiah, I was thinking today, as I was thinking about this class. Nehemiah, what a great name. What does Nehemiah mean in it's a Hebrew? What was it mean?
Compassion.
Also, what's Nechama? Nichum Avelim. When you go to the mourners, what do? Comfort.
Comfort.
Right? Nechama, right? Nichum. Nehemiah is comfort. Comfort. What's the ultimate, again, speaking about life and death, legacy. What's the ultimate comfort? Is knowing that your legacy lives on. That's Rabbi Nehemiah. Rabbi Nehemiah says, Moses started the song and then he stopped and it continued. That's the best legacy. The greatest legacy is, it's going to sound harsh, they don't need you anymore. I'm not needed. In a good way. That's the greatest legacy. A legacy that you're still needed and when you're gone, it all falls apart. What kind of legacy is that? What kind of legacy? That's no legacy. That's like, right? What do they say? There's a lot. I can tie this into football now. There's a lot of controversy going on in Pittsburgh now with this new coach that they hire. I don't even want to get into it. But it's the Rooney family, and it's the grandson of the original. I think it was Dan, Art, and Dan now again. Dan Rooney, and then Art Rooney, and then Dan, or maybe I'm getting it wrong. Maybe it's Art, Dan, and Art. One of those combinations of Dan and Art. But they always say that like the third generation just tanks the business, right? That's what they say, right? This guy started the business, the next generation takes it over, and the third one tanks it. Not always, but sometimes. That's not the greatest legacy is when you can retire and it still goes strong. That's a true leader. How did Moses know he got it right? Because they sang the song.
Funny enough,
They flash mobbed it. Yeah.
The knock on Mike Tomlin is that he didn't. They're like, oh, well, where's his coaching tree? He didn't create another leader.
Where's the legacy?
Yeah, exactly, which is pretty interesting. I didn't think that was.
Where's the legacy? It all ties into Torah, by the way. Yeah, you think it's Mike Tomlin and this guy, whatever his name, McCarthy. It's all Parshat. It's all Parshat related. It's all Parshat related. Bottom line is, so here's the charge and here's the takeaway. And I said at the top of the class, I think I mapped it out pretty accurately, but I think this is the takeaway that we can all relate to. As I said before, I think the takeaway we can all relate to is in all of our lives, we might have been on the receiving end or on the giving end of this. Receiving end of someone who was a little controlling and micromanaging and didn't give us our own voice versus someone who allowed us to sing. That and we know what that feels like, the difference. Someone who gave us an opportunity to sing and didn't just say, do this, do this, do this. No, let me sing. I might get it wrong the first time, but I might get it right also, right? So that's one thing. But then also the opportunity to share that with others. And to, when we find ourselves like being a little too controlling, to take a step back and say, you know what? Let me be like Moses, according to Rabbi Nehemiah in the Talmud. Let me start off and kind of share the vision and the first few words. But after that, let me allow them to continue. And they'll get it right because I have faith in them. And I think this is where Moses' leadership really comes full circle. One of the first things he says to God is that the people are not going to believe me. The people are not going to believe in you. And God says to Moses, put your hand in your shirt and pull it out. And it's filled with tzara'at, leprosy. You know when you get tzara'at? When you speak Lashon Hara. And the commentators say, you know why he got that? That sign, you know why he got that sign? Like it's somehow glossed over. It's in the opening Torah portion. What he does, he throws a stick. Everyone knows he threw the stick to the ground and turned it to a snake. But what about the one where he puts his hand to his cloak, pulls it out, and it's all white? Like that one somehow doesn't make the news. But it's in the Torah. It's in the Torah. The verses say it. Rashi, basic commentary says, you know why he got tzara'at? You know why he got? Because he spoke ill of the people. He had little faith in the people. And here he comes full circle. And he has a lot, according to Rabbi Nehemiah, he has total faith in the people. And he says, guys, I know you're going to get the song right. Ashir LaShem, take it away.
You know,
and we all got it.
What's amazing about that, I was reading the rest of this. And when they're marching out, the Pharaoh's army is coming and the Israelites cry out. And Hashem is like, why are you crying? Like, just stick your arm out and
keep on moving.
Yeah, like, just keep on.
Keep
like,
on moving.
It's one of those things where I don't think, like, it's not really spoken about that they're like, why are you crying? Why are you crying to me? Like, you don't need to do that.
And God says, I already told you what to do. Like, you just got to keep moving. It's a beautiful lesson. The idea of leadership, parenting, mentorship. It's just the idea of empowerment. And I think we can all take it to heart. Make sense? David, you want to jump in?
Yes, I was reading an article earlier about the first night of the Rebbe's leadership, and it was saying that I just picked up on the fact that he wasn't leading the singing that night. When they would break out into song, he didn't lead the singing, and I wonder if that is sort of one way that he demonstrated that his style of leadership, that he was, letting the other letting the Hasidim decide.
Yeah,
what to
that's
sing.
beautiful. I think there's a lot of symbolism there with the singing. I will also say that in either the discourse that he said that night or the talks, he gave a formal Hasidic address, but also spoke. But in definitely at some point in the evening, he said, this is not going to be a relationship where you're going to rely on me to do everything. This is going to be, everyone here is going to be, picking up the slack, doing what they need to do to bring Mashiach. This is not like, we have now, imagine like a community that always has a spiritual leader. And for a year, after the previous one passed away, they have no leader. Now they appoint a leader. So now it's like, whew, okay, well, we got a guy. So whatever has to happen, he'll do it. It's not going to happen. He says, that's not what this is not. I mean, I'm happy to share ideas, but everyone's got to do the work. And I think it didn't change. The last discourse the Rabbi handed out before his stroke in 1992, also the same thing. The theme of the idea of Moses empowering the people to run with it. It's from the beginning all the way through. It was always the style of leadership to empower others to lead, not to follow. Everybody didn't want followers. Everybody wanted leaders. Be a leader. Go out into a community and be a leader. That's it. I don't want you here. Don't be here. Just go out, be a leader.
Except for that time, like Rock and all
yeah. So that's the style. That's the style of it, and I think it's very empowering. I think it can inform us in our own lives in a very powerful way, to give people the benefit of the doubt, to believe in people around us, and to empower them to be great. Because after all, if we believe in ourselves, we should believe in others, and we're all one. All right, that's it for tonight. Hope that made sense. Made sense? Okay. Thank you, Martia.
Yes,
everyone's invited. There's a Farbrengen or class and Farbrengen going on in the social. If you'd like to join, I'm going to check it out now myself. Everyone is invited, and otherwise, we'll see you soon. Oh, I should mention, Tu B'Shvat Seder is coming up this Sunday night, February 1st at 8 p.m. A lot of fun. If you're not sure what a Tu B'Shvat Seder is, that's all the more reason to join. You get 4 cups of wine. You get all the fruits of Israel and different fruits and foods. There's going to be a beautiful grazing table, which I'm still uncertain about that term, but that's what they call it, a grazing table. Sounds like, anyway, for livestock. Yeah, but whatever. But it's a beautiful setup, delicious ambiance, and live music, meaningful discussions, 4 sections to the Seder, circled around the 4 different seasons and 4 different modalities of the work that we do in our lives. Winter, spring, summer, and fall, the white wine, the pink wine, or the rosé, and then ultimately culminating in the red wine, and you'll find out about all these different, all the rosé. Right, rosé is pink, no, isn't it?
Yeah, no, yeah. It just
it's pink. Yeah.
You never think that these things are going to get tied into.
That's all tied in. Somehow we're going to loop Mike Tomlin, Mike McCarthy, rosé. Everything gets looped in here Wednesday nights. That's how we roll. All right, that's it for tonight. Make sense? All right, good. Thank you for joining. Mom, Kay, Richard, Steve, Dr. Maxie, Meira and Dasi and crew and Leora and Faye. Good to see you all. Lila Tov. See you soon.
Lila Tov.